Hello guys, welcome back. And today, we're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning and them clinching a spot in the 2019 NHL playoffs. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have clinched a playoff spot, so how did they get up to this point, and how does the playoff picture look with them in it? Watch till the end to find out. Now, 68 games until this NHL season, the Tampa Bay Lightning are the first team in the NHL to clinch a playoff spot. And that is big news since it means that they're pretty much near the playoffs, which is scary, but it also means that we're starting to see a lot more teams clinch. And while the Tampa Bay Lightning have been dominant, we'll start to see some more domino effects, some teams being eliminated from the playoffs, and some teams also coming in. But the Tampa Bay Lightning are the first to do so. Now, with 106 points so far this season, the Tampa Bay Lightning have just been straight electric this season. Offensively, defensively, goaltending, it's all been there for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Even the special teams that were a little bit weak last season when it came to the penalty kill, they fixed that, and it's pretty much been a perfect season for them almost. They haven't lost 15 games yet. They're still on top of the world right now, and when it comes to the team and the way it's built, you couldn't get more good than it is right now because everybody is clicking. Now, while they weren't always number one in the standings throughout this whole season, they were pretty much always the team to beat. There were some times when Buffalo would be the best team in the league, technically, but we all knew Tampa was the best on paper and was going to get that number one spot right back. And they did, as they've been first place in the NHL standings since November 29th, which is just absolutely ludicrous. At this point, it's been 5 months, and I really don't see that changing. Now, the second place team right now is the Boston Bruins. They currently have 91 points. They aren't even in a position to clinch the playoffs yet. That's how good the Tampa Bay Lightning have been. But when it comes to the first and second gap, when it comes to points, Boston being number 2, Tampa being number 1, there is a 15-point gap between the two, and it was wider at some points in the season, but it's just ridiculous what Tampa's done, especially since Boston right now, in the last 10 games, are on a 9-0-1 record. Boston is playing beautifully. They're playing fantastic right now, but they can't even touch Tampa as they have such a lead, and they've pumped that over the last couple of months to where Boston doesn't even have a chance. Now, at points throughout this season, they were on pace to match the most wins in a single season in NHL history. They were on pace to tie the Detroit Red Wings back in 1996 when it comes to wins in a regular season. And that was just ridiculous. They kind of cooled off a little bit since they have lost one straight, or their last game. So it kind of cooled off a little bit, but they're still in pretty great company, especially when we look at the Cap era. Now, Dan Rosen had a pretty good tweet comparing the Lightning to some of the best teams in the Cap era, and he said the Lightning needed 68 games to clinch a playoff berth, tying the 2008-2009 Sharks for the second fastest to a checkmark in the Cap era. The 2009-2010 Capitals did it in 67 games. Both the Sharks and the Caps both lost in the first round in both respective seasons. And that kind of turns a little bit of perspective for the Tampa Bay Lightning, as they've been so good in the Cap era. It's almost unthinkable to think them as losing in the first round or something, but it's still possible to happen, and upsets always happen. When we look towards last year's playoffs, there was a big lack of upsets when it came to some of the 8th seeds, some of the 7th seeds. There were some lack of upsets compared to years past, and that, I think, is kind of an anomaly. That is kind of the exception to the rule, that there usually is at least one pretty big upset in every single playoffs, and this year could be that. I don't expect to see all these teams that were pegged to be great continuing to be great and steamroll for the playoffs. I expect to see a few upsets here, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, while they are looking like gods right now, could be victim of that. Everybody always knows about the President's Trophy curse, but when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning, they won the President's Trophy last season, and they weren't able to get the Washington Capitals in the 3rd round last season. And it was a brutal loss for a team that was pegged to win the Stanley Cup that season. And the same thing goes for this season. If they don't win the Stanley Cup, it's almost a bust. It's almost a failure for them, for how good they have been, how much expectations they have. And to me, most of the time, you really can't fulfill those expectations of winning the Stanley Cup. The Tampa Bay Lightning are a big example of how hard it is to win the Stanley Cup, as yes, they won it in 2004, but since then they've had a lot of opportunities in the last decade and have not been able to get it time after time again. So for me, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning are the most likely to win the Stanley Cup, but that doesn't mean they'll actually do it. Now, when it comes to the seeding and who Tampa might play in the first round, right now, as of now, they will play the Montreal Canadiens, as the Canadiens have that second wildcard spot. Tampa should should probably win that one if it actually does happen, unless Carey Price becomes a god, which might just happen. But when it comes to the potential playoff matchups that Tampa could have, there are quite a lot, as the Eastern Conference race is getting pretty tight right now. It could be a mixture of Carolina, Montreal, Columbus, Pittsburgh. There are a lot of teams in that same position that are fighting for not just divisional spots, but for wildcard spots. And for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I would definitely be scared of the Pittsburgh Penguins end up being that second wildcard. Right now, I think they could get past Montreal, they could get past Carolina, they probably will get past Columbus, but if they end up facing the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round, that could be a huge spoiler, as I think the Pittsburgh Penguins are pretty weak this season. From what I've seen, I don't really like their team and how they're playing, but when it comes to the playoffs, they're always a different beast, and it seems like the Pittsburgh Penguins always turn it to another level, so we'll see what actually happens there. But the Tampa Bay Lightning should have a pretty interesting opponent in the first round, as they're going to be pegged to win it as always, but I just don't see that happening 100%. Now, some of you guys know it already. The Tampa Bay Lightning are my second favorite team, so I've been enjoying this season very much so. They've been so fun to watch, so electric to watch, and so just fun and smart to watch. But when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning, again, I've been burned time and time again by how many times they've choked in the playoffs, whether it be in the Stanley Cup Final versus Chicago, the Eastern Conference Final versus Washington. It is never 100% with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and while this season looks amazing for them, I'll believe it when I actually see it. But again, I'm really happy that the Tampa Bay Lightning are able to clinch so early, get that over with, rest some guys now. They do have that playoff spot secured. They're not going to beat some records this season. They're not going to beat the Detroit Red Wings. They're not going to beat the Montreal Canadiens when it comes to points. So they can lay that aside and focus on resting up for the playoffs, and that's what the Tampa Bay Lightning should do. Rest Vasilevsky as much as you humanly can, and hopefully all goes well in the playoffs. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about the Tampa Bay Lightning season? What do you think about them clinching a playoff spot? And what are your expectations for them in the playoffs? Do you see them getting past the first round? And do you see them actually winning the Stanley Cup? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about the Tampa Bay Lightning and if they're the best team in NHL history. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on the Tampa Bay Lightning this season and if they'll win the Stanley Cup. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.